All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Janine Aii, LebNet's Executive Director. Thank you all for joining us for our second Career Development Workshop on Time Management, presented by our esteemed Pierre Kawand. This workshop, organized by our LebNet Women in Tech community, thank you, Joelle, for joining us today, representing the Women in Tech community, aims to give you the essential skills to effectively manage your time and boost your career development. More people are joining, so I'm going to admit them. A small plug for LebNet. We continue to do some amazing programs and amazing events for our communities of Lebanese in tech in North America and Lebanon. Please check us out at lebnet.us and become a member if you find it interesting. And about our presenter, Pierre Kawand, he is the founder of People on the Go, has over 2 decades of experience in the software industry, excelling in innovation and strategic management. He has authored influential books on technology, leadership, and mindfulness, and developed the Hello Mindful app to democratize mindfulness in business. With degrees from the American University of Beirut and the University of Michigan, and executive education from Stanford, Pierre brings a wealth of knowledge to his endeavors. Thank you so much, Pierre, for being with us today and for your generosity and willingness to share your time and insights with us. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Pierre. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janine, and always so cool to hear my name pronounced fully and correctly. So great to be here and great to connect with everyone. I see many familiar faces and many new names I haven't met. So I hope that to meet you at some point, maybe at some of the LebNet events or otherwise. So yeah, today's session is about time management in the digital age, which, as you all know, changed everything. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a reflection. I'm going to invite you to reflect on what is the number one enemy of productivity. And just if you can think about that for a moment, and when you're ready, feel free to put a few thoughts in the chat if you would like. Would be great to just see a few thoughts there, and then I'm gonna launch our session. So what's the number one enemy of productivity? And by the way, there are so many, so I know you're not gonna run out of ideas. And I'm just curious what comes to your mind. Great, so I'm seeing distraction, lack of motivation, mostly loss of time and nonsense meetings, really good one. Social media, procrastination, too much on your plate, too much work, procrastination, anxiety. Great, thank you. So many of those factors are really crucial and important. I would like to highlight one of those factors. I think it was mentioned in some way, and that is our wandering mind and our distracted mind. And some of those distractions come from the outside, and many of them come from the inside. And actually, one of the Harvard studies demonstrated that our mind wanders about 47% of the time. So imagine this, like half the time we're not here, and we don't even know we're not here. So we're gonna put this thought on the side for now. We'll come back to it later. And for now, what I'd like to do is start with a concept that we call the results curve. And this concept, it's more of a different mindset, a way to think about how we work and how we get results. That's like a foundation. And then after I share this foundation, then we're gonna get into the specifics. But for now, this is more of a taking a step back and looking at the big picture. So the results curve has to do with how results change with time as we work on a task. So how do results change with time? So when I start to put time into my task, hopefully I start to get some results. And if I continue to put more and more time, I'm going to get more and more results. But that's not going to continue forever. At some point, it's going to level off, and then it's likely to drop. And this can happen for many different reasons. It could be that I'm at that point tired mentally or physically and no longer productive. Or it could be that I did what I could and now I need someone else to do their part. I can't just keep going. Or it could be that I'm done with the task. So no more results to be accomplished. Okay, so this looks good in theory, but in reality, what happens? After a few minutes, when I start to work on a task, I get interrupted or distracted, and my results go down to 0. And then a few minutes later, I come back to this and I start to make some progress, and then I get distracted again or interrupted again, and then results go back to 0. And then this happens, again and again. What am I describing here? Our life in the digital age. So that's what we experience time in, one time after the other after the other. Okay, so let's check in for a bit and talk about the consequences of working this way. And there are many, but I'm going to highlight first. If you add up those results that we're getting by working a few minutes here, a few minutes there, this is probably 5 to 10% of the total results we would get if we were to stay focused on this task. So imagine this, we're pretty much operating at like 5 or 10% capacity. So no wonder why we feel there's just too much to do, not enough time to do it, and we feel we're overwhelmed by the workload and everything else that happens. Now, in addition though, when we work a few minutes here, a few minutes there, we're staying at the superficial level. We're doing the quick fixes. We're not getting the opportunity to get deeper and be creative and do all the amazing things that we could potentially do. So that's another big side effect of working this way. So what do we need to do to change this? What we need to do is stay focused long enough in order to accomplish all of this in the shortest amount of time. And that's what we call the accomplishment zone. So staying long enough in order to get so much more accomplished in less time. Now, the question comes up here is how long is long enough? Well, that depends on the task. So sometimes maybe I need just 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Sometimes I need more like half an hour or an hour, and sometimes several hours. So the idea is to be mindful. And when I take on a task, whether it's a tiny little thing or a big thing, to pause for a moment and decide how much time do I need, how much focus time do I need, and to try to stay focused. Here we go. And to try to stay focused for that time. Now, is it easy to stay focused? It is not easy to stay focused. It's so difficult to stay focused. There are so many factors that distract us, again, internally and externally. So that's why in the session today, I'm going to be talking about some of these factors and giving you some really tangible techniques to work with them and to find ways to, some of them you can avoid, some of them you can manage, some of them we have to live with, but there are ways to live with them more peacefully instead of feeling distracted and disoriented all the time. Okay, but let's continue with the model for now because there are many details we're going to cover later, but let's stay with the model for now. And then when I finish with that focus session, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch and become highly collaborative. We call this the collaboration zone. And that means opening up and talking to people, answering questions, asking questions, collaborating, innovating together, ideating, whatever else it takes. And the results I'm going to get here are going to be pretty high because we need each other to accomplish important things. We cannot just stay focused and do individual work. So this is equally important to the accomplishment zone. And then when I finish this collaboration time, I'm gonna stop again, and I'm gonna do something very different. Anyone want to tell me what that might be right here? I know there are many things we can do right there, but let's see. You can feel free, open audio, or put in the chat whatever you're comfortable with, and then I'll share with you some thoughts on this. What do you think this is? This last section there? Okay, Joelle. Like a debrief, could be a debrief. So there's many options. So I'll let you all come up with as many options as you can, and then I'll zero in on something. Me time. Ooh, a break. Okay, take a break. Okay. So yes, it is along the line of a break. I'm gonna even take it a step further. I'm gonna call it playtime. And that is intended to be not just any break, a break that brings you some energy, some feeling rejuvenated, feeling more back alive, and whatever else you need to do to get you back on track. And this is well-being. This is taking care of yourself. And I'll talk more about that in a few moments. So this is a model. Now, how we apply this model can take different shapes and forms, and the order in which you do this and how long these are, this is very dynamic, and this is all up to you. So this is not like a very strict, you do an hour here, 20 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It's very dynamic, but the idea is to be mindful of where am I right now, and being intentional. Am I focused, and do I want to be focused? And if so, then I arrange for this to happen. Is it time to switch? So I'm making intentional decisions to switch and be collaborative. And then when is it time that I need to put that stop and really get energized? So it's more about being intentional and knowing where we are, more so than having a prescribed exact time for each one of those. So I'm going to give you 3 key takeaways from this, and then I'd like to pose a question and give you time to think about it. And actually, we're going to play a little, because we're going to model in this short session today. We're going to model a little bit what I'm describing to you, so you get a real feel for it. But let's summarize first, and then we'll do a couple minutes of play. So the 3 key takeaways I want you to remember, and one thing I didn't mention early on, I'll mention it now. I'm going to have lots of resources for you, including all the slides, few chapters from the book that I published related to all these concepts, and also a couple additional complementary courses that you can take that we offer. So going to be lots of resources. So don't worry about taking every little note and get too busy with the notes, but feel free to take notes. I think taking notes is a really good thing because it keeps us focused and all this, but don't feel like you need to take a lot of notes. So number 1, how important is focus? Time management is really about focus and about managing our attention. And that's what I'm going to get to much later in this session, is very tangible techniques for managing our attention. So it's really, you almost don't call it time management, it's attention management. Time management is almost something from the past. So time management in the digital age is attention management. The second part is how important it is to know when to stop. So stop focus in order to collaborate, stop collaborating in order to play. And I'll give you one more example, which is, let's say I'm going on this, I'm producing results, I'm way up here on the curve, and then I get here. It's very important at this point to stop. Once I feel like now energy starts to go down, my productivity starts to go down, it's important to be mindful of that and to make that stop right here. If I keep going I'm gonna start to be very unproductive. I'm gonna start to be stressed and overwhelmed. Maybe I start to make mistakes. And that's the formula. If I do this too often, this is the formula for burnout. So being more aware of where am I here and being more aware of my energy level are essential for us to really manage our well-being as we manage our time and our attention. And then the last one is this idea of working in bursts, which means bursts of highly focused time where we're so focused and getting some amazing outcomes, bursts of highly collaborative time where we're really leveraging our team and other people, and then bursts of playtime where we're really stepping back and feeling that energy and getting excited and refreshed and ready for more. So work doesn't just happen, work, 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 work. It really needs to be focus bursts that allow us to accomplish more, but yet feel good. Okay, so let's play a little. So I have, let's see, how are we doing here? So I think we can have smaller breakout rooms. I'll maybe have breakout rooms of 3 or 4 people so you can get a chance also to meet each other. So this is also an opportunity to socialize a little bit. So I'm going to give you this puzzle and see if you can come up with the answer to this puzzle, to this last equation. I know this appears to be really easy, and it is easy, but give it some thought and see what you might uncover there. So I'm going to share with you the link, because otherwise when you go into the breakout room, you're not going to see my screen. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and you want to click on this before you go into the breakout rooms. And I'm going to start breakout rooms right now. And this is just a couple minutes. So a couple minutes of playtime, and we're going to have like 12 breakout rooms. Actually, let's make it 10. And have fun for a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and see what you got. Playtime. I'm checking to make sure no breakout rooms have only one person. I think we're good. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna move to room 2. Move to room 2. Okay. Oh, Fatima is move to room 9. Okay. So some of you who tried the breakout room and you were alone, I think I made a change and put you with someone. So feel free to try again if you would like. Okay, we just have another minute, so you can just, if you'd like, you can just solve it on your own and stay with us. So let's tell them that they have just a minute. Did you solve it, Janine?
Talking to the mute button. I'm like, why isn't Pierre answering me? Yeah, it sounds very easy, but I hope there is no trick in there.
it's legitimate. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Okay, let's close, bring everybody, and then continue with our topic. Okay, so we have some people who are back, some people are still working on it. So if you're back and you have an answer for us, could you put it in the chat? And then I can give you a little feedback, some feedback where you are. Okay, Aziz, 30, Fatin, 30. You guys may have been on the same team maybe. So 30 is on the low side, just in case you would like to check it out again. So I'll start to give you some input. Okay, those who just got back from the breakout room, please feel free to share you can share your results in the chat, and then I can give you an idea if you got it or not. So we'll just do a little bit of sharing. Okay, here we go. Noor is 43. Okay, what else have we gotten? Anybody else? 23, 15. Okay. Okay, so let's announce the winner. That will be Noor and her team. Congratulations. So the key is that this guy right here is carrying two of those bouquets and also wearing a pair of shoes. So basically, from this first one, we can tell the shoe is a 5, the person is a 5, each bag is a 2, and then we need to add them all up. The person, 2 bags, 2 shoes, which is 19. And then remember that multiplication takes precedence over addition, 43. So congratulations to the team who got it. And if you didn't get it, congratulations, because you had some playtime and you feel now probably, hopefully, a little more energized and ready for more. Okay, so let us, what's the prize? Yeah. Oh, I have, normally if we did this in person, the prize would have been some yummy dark chocolate. Now that we are not in person, we'll have to imagine. I'll show you what the dark chocolate looks like later. We'll have to imagine a little bit. So our agenda for the day is the following. We've already covered the focused and collaborative time. And now, actually, before we do that, I'm going to ask you a question. So if you think about this point right here, so this is the point of interruption. You know, this point, this point, this point. So when we get interrupted and go off track. So what are the different interruptions that interrupt you during your day? So you can feel free to put that also in the chat. Just a few ideas so we can see what comes up for the group. And then I'll talk some more about it. So what are the interruptions that interrupt you often during your workday? Phone, okay, yes, the phone, a big one. Okay, notifications, yes, all kinds of them. New tasks, people, emails, yes. Okay, let's see if a few more are gonna come up. Okay, food, yes, food, and craving for different kinds of food, yes. Okay, so all those are totally valid interruptions. The one I want to go back to, which again we're gonna address a little later, is our own wandering mind, the biggest interruptions of all. We'll get to that later, but let's start with something simple like email, because email is an interruption. And so I'd like to tackle that first. It's a little easier to tackle. And we have more control over email than we have over our own wandering mind. So let's start with something a little easier that we have more control over. And then we're going to talk about competing priorities. And then we're going to talk about the wandering mind and other potential external interruptions. So with email, I'm gonna start by showing you how most people do email today. You can tell me at the end. I would love to see if how many of you do email this way or not. So we call this the story of an email. It's just a fun couple-minute story that highlights how we get engaged with email. So the story of an email goes like this. So someone would be very focused and trying to get something really important accomplished, but suddenly they hear the email beep. So they leave what they're doing and they open their email inbox. Halfway through reading that email, another one arrives. They leave this alone. They open the new one. This happens again and again. And now they have all these messages open, none of them completed. For whatever reason, they start to respond to this last message. And then as soon as they start typing, another one arrives. This new one has something about the calendar. They jump into the calendar. Oh, and they see this unrelated item on the calendar. And they remember they didn't send the report to these people. Okay, they start a new email trying to send that report. And then a new one arrives. This one has a link. They click on the link. And now they're in the browser and they see, oh, Facebook is open. Now they're on Facebook for 20 minutes or Instagram or whatever thing you want. So that's how email keeps us so distracted and keeps us pretty much back to our chart here. It keeps us interrupted here and here and here. But it's not just about the interruption. It makes our brain agitated, and basically it makes us even less productive and starts to become this background email anxiety. So we really need a better way to handle email, and that's what I'm going to show you now. It has to start with a new mindset, and that is thinking about email as being a task instead of email being something we just do randomly every few seconds, every few minutes. So email becomes just like a task. And that means it has a beginning, it has an end, and we know what to do. It has a process that helps us manage it. So I'm going to walk you through this process briefly right here. Using this conceptual diagram. And then I'm going to basically give you a little walkthrough of how this would work in an email application. I'm going to use Outlook for now just to give you a little demo, but this could apply in any application, whether using Gmail or whatever else you might be using, Apple Mail, whatever else, you can apply the same concept. So let's talk about the process first. And then I'll give you just a brief walkthrough of the Outlook screens. And I have a whole chapter on this in the online portal for those who want to apply this and need more hand-holding. So let's talk about the process. So the process starts when I go to the inbox. Actually, that's not what I wanted. Let's go through that real quick. That's what we saw earlier. It's not what we want. We want the process to be much better. So the process starts when we go to the inbox, and that's the beginning of the task. And then the task will end when we process the new messages that got to the inbox since the last time we checked it. So if I go to the inbox and I find 10 new messages, having checked it half an hour ago, my task would be to process those 10 new messages. So I start with the top message, I take a look at it, and then I pause for a brief moment and I ask the question, is this something I want to handle now or not? Do I want to handle this message now or not? Now, for some people, they say, well, what's the big deal? That is a huge deal. This ability to pause and make a decision, as opposed to keep going and get lost into whatever we're doing. And then 20 minutes later, oh, what was I doing? So this habit, cultivating this awareness of deciding on every little thing you do, whether it's an email, bigger task, bigger project, is having that ability to pause and check in and decide. And this becomes a habit that you can do in a split second. So having that pause, is this where I want to go right now or not? Do I want to handle this message now or not? That's the question. You may want to write it down. 3 words, now or not. If the answer is yes, I do it, do whatever I need to do. Quickly, if it's done, quickly get it out of the inbox. If you don't know where to put it in one catch-all folder. If the answer is no, which means I'm not going to do it now, I don't just leave it in the inbox. I'll quickly determine, is it something I want to do today? And if so, I'll assign to it the category today. Or is it something that if I don't get to it today, it's okay to tackle it tomorrow, in which case I'll assign to it the category tomorrow? Or is it something that I want to delegate to someone else, in which case I forward the message and then assign to it the category waiting for? And then I get it out of the inbox. And then I go to the next message, one message after the other, until I finish all the new messages that came to the inbox since the last time I checked it. And now I'm done with email. I can go do something else and be focused, be strategic. And then I come back to email. So when do I come back to email? I can come back to email after every focus session. So email can become, this is the home for email. It's part of my collaboration, and it's something I can come back to often. So typically our focus sessions for most of our work tends to be more smaller. Actually, we have a method, we call it the perfect 15-minute day method, which is work in 15-minute increments. So it could be that you're checking this every 15 minutes if you want, or every half an hour, or once an hour. It all depends on the nature of your emails, the volume of your emails, the nature of your work. But the idea is not to be checking email here and here and here and here and turning it into, turn your productivity into 5 to 10% and create that state of being that's anxious and hyper and agitated. So that's a whole different way of being and allowing our creativity to show up. So quickly in Outlook, this is how this would look like. And again, I'm not going to take too much time here. Those are the details that the chapter in the online portal will give you a lot of this. So, but at least so you see it once. For most people, they see it once and they can do it. But if you need more hand holding, the chapter can help you. So I go to the inbox. I start with the top message. I take a look. I ask the question. What was the question? Anyone? I wait for a moment, see if you're all with me. Okay, yeah, thank you. Now or not? It's that simple, now or not. In this case, the answer is yes, now. So I'm gonna respond and quickly take it out of the inbox. I don't want finished messages cluttering my inbox. And if you don't know where to put it, you don't want to find messages, fine, just put it in a different folder like catch all. Then go to the next one, now or not. In this case, the answer is no, not now. For whatever reason, it could be that I don't have time now. This would take me half an hour. All I have is 5 minutes. It could be that I don't have all the information I need yet to process this. It could be that I am not in the mood to get into this topic right now. Or it could be that that's not where I want my time to go right now. I want to be more strategic, and this is not where I want my time to go. So if the answer is no, this one I decide I'm not going to do it, but it's something I'd like to get back to today. So I'm going to assign to it the red category. So now I have a nice visual cue that tells me this needs to be handled today. So I don't have to keep going back to the inbox, always concerned. What am I missing? Which messages are these? And go through the inbox 50 times a day. I know which ones need to be handled today. And then I go to the next one. Let's say also later today. So I assign to it the red category, but this one is very time sensitive. So I might assign also a follow-up for 1 p.m. Next one, I decide, you know, if I don't get to it today, it's okay. I'm gonna assign to it the blue category. So blue means still outstanding, but if I don't get to it today, It's okay. I'm not worried about it. Next one, I'm going to delegate this, but such an important issue. I don't want to delegate this and forget about it. I want to keep an eye on it until I get a confirmation it was completed. So I'm going to assign to it the yellow category. And you see, I renamed the category, so I'm very specific in how I'm using them. And I gave them numbers so I can see them in this order later. And then I keep going message after message until I finish all the new messages that came to the inbox since the last time I checked it. And then I'm done with email for now. And then I'm done with email. I do some more collaborative work. I come back and focus on something that matters. Email is 80-20 rule. About 20% of email matters. The other 80%, we really should do it quickly, if at all. So it's really time management is about focus and about focusing on what matters. And email needs to be taken very carefully because only a small fraction of email matters. So then couple more tips here before we leave this alone. The first tip is just quickly, when you saw me do this demo, I pretty much categorized everything. This is just because I wanted to show you the categories, so I ended up categorizing most of them. In real life, when we go do this, during the email task, we try to handle and respond to as many as possible and categorize only the ones we cannot respond to. So if I go to my email task and I find 15 new messages, I may be responding to 6, 7, 10 of them and only categorizing the 4 or 5 that I decide intentionally that I don't want to handle now for whatever reason. So just to let you know, because some people see us do this demo and they think, oh yeah, go to the email task, just categorize everything. No, it's actually responding to as many as you can. Now, having said this, wouldn't it be nice to have one place where you can see all those colored messages in one view instead of having to scroll up and down? And wouldn't it be nice if they would be organized by color? So there is such a place. It's called the categorized mail search folder. And this is such a useful view because it tells me, it shows me everything that's outstanding in one place. I don't have to go look for it, scroll up and down. And it tells me exactly what I need to do today, what can wait for tomorrow. But of course, if I have time, I'll do it. And then when I'm waiting for other people to get back to me on, which for many of us, this can be a showstopper, all things that we're waiting for, and it's hard to track what we're waiting for. So this is the answer to all of this. And now that I have this answer, I probably want to go back to the inbox and add a filter to the inbox in which I put something like categories is empty so that the messages that I categorize, they no longer show up in the inbox because I don't want them. I know where they are. They're one click away. I don't want them to stay in the inbox, cluttering the inbox. So the inbox becomes clear and ready for new messages. And then anytime I want to work on my outstanding messages, I go to that categorized mail search folder and I have them all in one place. So, so this is really reinventing how we work with email. And it starts with a mindset, the mindset being, email needs to have space, but it shouldn't be occupying the whole space. It should be contained, and our focus needs to be on what matters. And some of these emails matter, but there's a whole bunch that don't, but they can easily take up so much more than what we need to. So questions before we move on. Our next topic is going to be a really crucial topic, but we also need to play a little before we get to our next topic. But let's first see if there are any questions. Cynthia, you have a question there. Did you use these strategies during your time at university? You mean when I was at AUB or U of M or Stanford? Yeah, I don't think email being at a university was as big of a deal as in the workplace. And these are techniques that kind of came over the last 15 or so years working with on my current company, working with teams and organizations of all kinds. And that's kind of the method we organically develop. Yeah. Go ahead, Cynthia. You have more questions? Go ahead.
Yes. So I'm currently a college student myself. So
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to really work on getting I see all these time management strategies. So I was just curious to see if you used any of these strategies during your time in
Yeah.
university
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They can be helpful in any environment. I think it all depends like how much volume of email you get and how much of your time it's taking and whether it's distracting you or not. If you have a low volume and it's manageable because you tend to communicate in other ways and maybe not as much through email because sometimes that's the case in college environments, then maybe you don't need to go to this length. But if you work a lot with email and email is an issue, this can help you in any environment. So I would encourage you to kind of check in and see and try it out maybe. Sometimes the best way to know if something's gonna help is trying it out. Okay,
Right.
Noor,
Definitely. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. And I'm checking here the chat again. So Noor, I tend to send myself emails as tasks. I wonder if that's terrible idea. Yeah, so I would say, tasks can get to be a little bit overwhelming and organizing them and coming back to them. So the categories and keeping the email contained within email as opposed to now having a second channel to go to might be more effective than turning them into tasks. So coming up with today I introduced to you today, tomorrow waiting for, but you can play with those categories. We have people who customize this in so many different ways. Maybe for you, there's today, tomorrow, this week, and then next quarter, because the nature of the work that you do. Also, there could be categories by, I'll give you a simple example. So this person, part of her responsibility was to get all the people, the various people that stakeholders that interact with her department into a database so they can go back to them and work with them. And she gets requests from her team all day long to put people in the database. What she did, she created a new category that she called it database input or whatever else. And this way she stops once or twice a week and she spends half an hour putting these people in the database. So she kind of worked with her workflow to help her manage that without taking it into tasks or other places. Yeah, so if you can keep it contained, that probably might be a little more effective. But again, it's testing and checking out what might work. Okay, we'll take one more for now, knowing that we want to cover a lot, and then hopefully at the end we'll have some more time for questions. And I do have office hours actually. So for those who feel like they want to have a longer conversation about any of this, you can feel free to visit the office hours, which I'll share with you at the end. So let's check out what Walid had to say, even though Noor answered Walid, maybe it's all taken care of. Do you think there could be some AI rules based scenarios we can use in apps like Outlook to help handling messages? Maybe some helpful AI tools for automatic deletion or categorizing. I mean, there are filters. I think more AI tools are coming. Microsoft is adding so much to the whole suite. So I would imagine there will be more and more that can help. But there are filters already that allow you to do some automation. But talking about AI, I'm just gonna show you this thing I came across today, which is really interesting because AI is such a big topic for all of us right now. Just give you a chance to read this for a moment. And that's kind of the end of our AI conversation for the time being, because we can spend the whole time on talking about the AI things. So yes, so AI can do amazing things. but we wish it can do also the other things that we don't want to do, as opposed to the things that we want to do. Okay, so so let's go back to where we're headed, and I'm thinking in terms of a little bit playful time. Let's do this. Let me see if I have this here, which could be interesting for us to do. Okay, this one. Yeah, let's get your right brain working, because we've been thinking a lot and doing analytical things. So I'm going to give you a minute to complete this drawing. So you need something to write on. You can do it electronically if you have electronic drawing tools. So you can start on your paper or notebook. You can start with this and then see what you're inspired to do to complete this drawing. So this is right brain exercise to, oh, great. So yeah, I'll give you a minute to do this on your own, and then we'll see who's willing to show us their art, and have fun with that for a moment. So yeah, right brain exercises are a great way to pause, engage different part of our nervous system, and get us refreshed and ready for more. Okay, 20 more seconds. All right, so anyone willing to show us their piece of art for for fun and to share something? If you do, you may need to take off your Zoom background so we can see it if you have a Zoom background on. And if not, that's okay. We'll let you enjoy it. And oh, you imagined an elephant for it. Okay, great. You drew in your mind. I think that works too. Oh, Noor, you did that as well. Okay, elephant seems to be a popular theme here. Okay. Okay. Joelle is showing something almost. Oh, okay. Is it a duck, Joelle?
It's a flamingo, but I can't remove
Oh,
for some reason.
yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. We're gonna imagine it, what it looks like. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. So this was, again, we're trying to apply this concept of we need to stop. And this is my recommendation, not letting 30 to 45 minutes go by without a stop that is intentional and that is a real break. Not sometimes we take a break, we come back more stressed after the break. So stopping with something creative, something, a yoga pose, a breathing exercise, little meditation, music, whatever else, but something that puts you back on track. If you can do something that uses some movement and your body, that's even better, because the body has just such an amazing capability of bring us back to reality from our scattered mind. Okay, so let's get back to managing competing priorities. That's a big deal, because I can imagine almost everyone on the call having just too many demands, too many things happening, and two kinds of things actually that tends to come up for most of us. Some things that are planned, so some priorities that we know about, and then some things that just come to us unexpectedly, and they can be big and stressful and deadline driven, and they can create a lot of stress, and they can also mess up all our time management and organization, everything else. So what we're gonna cover here, we're gonna cover both. We're gonna start with the items that we know about, we know they're coming, and we wanna be more prepared for them. But then after we tackle those items, I'd like to talk about how do we tackle the items that come up unexpectedly. And instead of feeling stressed and overwhelmed by them, we can be calmer and able to work with them. So let's start with this mini exercise. This is on your own. If you can think about what are your immediate priorities, so things that are on your plate right now and up to 2 weeks, so very short term. And this is a brain dump exercise. So this is not, don't overthink it and try to put them in an order, or whatever is on your plate, just write it down. So make a list and put as many as you can. I'm just going to give you like a minute or two, so you won't be able to finish this list, but put as many as you can. Big or small, doesn't matter. Even personal items that if they come up, if they come to your mind, just put them down. Okay, another 30 seconds. So you have time for maybe a few more. All right, so you can finish writing the last item you're writing. And before I show you the tool, which we call the immediate priorities matrix, I just remembered that Noor asked a question earlier about which chocolate. So I'm gonna show Noor which chocolate is the chocolate I give in the in-person sessions. So yeah, it's a really great brand, and you can find it in many places, like Whole Foods would have it, other places would have it. So anyway, we use this in one of our negotiation workshops to give people some role play and negotiate about chocolate. But we won't do that today. We won't have time for that today. So we'll go back to our priorities. So, so with these priorities, so I'm going to share with you a tool which we call the immediate priorities matrix. And this is a tool intended to help us plan the next couple of weeks and be much more prepared for it. You're going to see how in a moment. So I'm going to show you the matrix. So this is what the matrix looks like. This is somebody's matrix, by the way. And we're using it as a sample for now. And I took out the column headings because I'd like you to take a look and see if you can come up with the column headings. And also if you can think about 3 ways in which this matrix would be useful. So this is a 2-part exercise. One is the column headings, and one is 3 ways in which this would be useful. So I'm just going to give you like 30 seconds, 45 seconds to think about it, and then I'll share some information about it. So what are the column headings? And can you think of 3 ways in which this would be useful? So another 15 seconds, just so you have a little time to absorb it. Okay, so in the time we have, typically I like to turn this into a discussion, have you go into the breakout room, talk about this, come back and report back. But I think we still have some more stuff to cover. So I'm gonna just kind of tell you what I want to tell you, as opposed to take a lot of time over it. And Waleed, I think you got several, you got it. So this is what this is, but let me walk you through them and share some nuances that may not be as apparent. So the first column is the priorities, basically what's on your plate for the next 2 weeks. Next column is the breakdown column. So take a priority that could be a task, could be a project, could be an issue that requires resolution. So take that priority, break it down into smaller and actionable components. And this is a stress release thing, because sometimes we're thinking about this and we're getting overwhelmed about this, but once we break it down, it starts to become easier. Third column, the most important column, it's the immediate. So identifying out of those, whatever, 3, 4, 5 steps, what do I need to do as soon as possible to get this started and going? This is the estimate for the immediate. This is the deadline for the immediate. So that's the matrix. And by the way, this matrix, this is the only view we have on what our world looks like for the next 2 weeks. That's the only view. Our world is so scattered. It's partly in email, partly in to-do list, partly in project documents, partly on post-it notes, partly in our head. So, and those are not good places, and no wonder why we feel pulled in all these different directions and hard to manage everything. So what this matrix does, it brings our world to one place so we can see it, and then we can be more prepared. How do we use this matrix? There are many, many ways. The 3 I'd like to share with you. One is scheduling. Second is setting expectations. And the third is negotiation. So I'll walk you through each one, give you a couple examples. Scheduling is the easiest by far. I go to my calendar. I find an hour before this or so, before this date, and I block time for these 2 items. I find an hour and a half before this date, block time for these 2 items. So basically, I'm taking my priorities, I'm making room for them on my calendar. Why is this such an important thing to do? And I think some of you may be doing this already. This is so important because the calendar is the only visual representation of time. Anything not on the calendar is hidden, and we don't get to it until late in the day or late in the week or miss important deadlines. So the calendar is when we see it. And also the calendar tells us how committed our time is, and if we can take more or not. So the calendar is where things become visual, and we have a better understanding of the volume of work and our commitments. Now, when you schedule things on the calendar, we recommend you schedule half of your time and let the other half be for unexpected things that might come up, for additional collaborative work you may need to do, for your well-being time, and balance. So for most people, half seems to work, but you're the best judge. So for you, it may be more or less. So you need to adjust accordingly. So now for most of us, when we schedule, we might get to the last few items on our matrix and realize I already scheduled half of my time. So if I keep scheduling, I know I'm not likely to get those really done. So this is where setting expectations and negotiation come into play. So setting expectations may look like this. Get in touch with the stakeholders, let them know that unfortunately I won't be able to get this done on Thursday, but I have it for them the following Monday. So this is setting expectations. This is being a team player. This is building trust. This is avoiding last minute escalations. And those of you who are managing people, this is a great tool to coach people and to teach them to set your expectations and other stakeholders' expectations. This is a management tool, actually, in addition to being an individual tool. So then sometimes setting expectations is not an option because this may be a fixed deadline that nobody can change. So in that case, I might go back to the stakeholders, let's say it's my boss, share this information and start to come up with some ideas. Could we delegate this to someone else so I have time to tackle the budget or whatever else we might be able to do? So this becomes my negotiation tool, because instead of going to, let's say, that stakeholder and say, oh, we don't have enough people, we don't have enough time, too many things, that's not going to help. That's not going to portray us in the best possible light. But when we go with data, data is very powerful. When we go with data and show how these pieces connect and what are the demands and how they rank, it's a whole different conversation. And that's what the matrix allows us to do. So now the matrix doesn't have to look like this. This was just a template. So the way I presented this template was basically a 6 columns, and the columns were the priorities, the breakdown columns, the immediate, the estimate, the deadline. And we said, once you prepare it, you do your scheduling, you might need to set expectations, you might need to negotiate, and you can really tailor this to whatever your needs are. Some people say, I don't need all those columns, I can take out some columns. Some people say, I need to track some more parameters here to help me really be more complete, so they add columns. Some people simplify it. The extreme simplification is to turn it into a simple list, like the one we did earlier. Some items you may break them down. Some items you may put a deadline because it's such a fixed deadline. Some of them you may budget a time. And then once you have that list, you do your scheduling, setting expectations, negotiation. So this is, feel free to reinvent this in whatever way you want. But the idea is, if we don't have a view, one view on what our next 2 weeks look like, it's likely we're jumping from priority to priority, and we always have that background anxiety about what's going on. So now let's quickly move, because I know I'm watching the time and I want to make sure we get to talk about the what we talked about earlier on, about the distracted mind and how we can work with that. But one more aspect here I want to share with you is this. I would like us to do a quick exercise together. I would like you to select one priority from the list that you created earlier. Just one important priority that you may have to tackle very soon. And write that down, please, somewhere. You can do it electronically if you want. Create a table if you do it electronically. And then once you choose that priority, if you can break it down into smaller steps. And that could be, 1 or 2 steps, could be 3 or 4 or more. And then once you have done that, if you can identify the immediate step. And sometimes it's a couple of things you need to do together. Basically, what would you do in your first sitting when you sit to do this, get this started? And then I'll keep going, and hopefully you're following. And if not, it's okay, you can finish that later. You can make that one of your action items. So, and then we're gonna go to the calendar and schedule this on the calendar. That could be, who knows, this afternoon or tomorrow morning, but make room for it on the calendar. So what we just did in like a minute or two, we did the first row of your priorities matrix. So to do this matrix, that takes like 10 minutes. And once you do it and you do your scheduling, whatever else, this becomes a background document. You don't need to keep updating it and worrying about it because this column is now on your calendar. So you just work like you normally do from your calendar and whatever else, email and project documents. And the matrix becomes more, if needed, if somebody comes to you, let's say tomorrow and says, oh, we need this from you, we need it today. You pull the matrix and you say, okay, if we do this today, this other important priority would need to be pushed till next Wednesday, which is more important. So it becomes your negotiation tool. So now let's go back here. So some people say, well, I don't know if I can use the priorities matrix because priorities change all the time. So I have two things to say about that. And then we're gonna close and move to our last topic. So the first thing I wanna say, if priorities change, that's one more reason to use this, because at least for the things that don't change, we wanna have them well planned and we wanna have them well organized so that we have the capacity to deal with what changes. So it's not a reason not to do this, actually a reason to do this. But now let's take this a step further. Let's say a whole new priority landed on your lap and something that wasn't expected, something that may be a little stressful, overwhelming. Where does our nervous system go when this happens? You all probably have heard about the fight or flight or freeze response. So that's where our nervous system goes. So this is what I'm gonna share with you what to do. So I would write down that priority that came up unexpectedly, that new priority. I would break it down into smaller steps. I would identify the immediate. And if I can do it right away, great. If not, I will schedule time for it. I can't schedule time for it even because my schedule is full. I'm gonna set expectations and then maybe even potentially negotiate. And what I'm doing here by taking those small steps, I'm engaging a different part of the nervous system. So now we're going into neuroscience a little bit. I'm engaging the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our nervous system responsible for our critical thinking and problem solving. So I'm activating that part and I'm deactivating the middle part of the brain, the amygdala, which typically is the one that gets so stressed and overwhelmed and releases all the stress hormones there is. So that's helping me calm down by taking those small steps. That's a great way to regulate our nervous system and feel calmer and able to manage what comes up instead of getting so overwhelmed and disoriented. So that's how deep this method goes. So the matrix is almost a cover to help train us to think differently and to work differently with the situations. Okay, let's keep going. Again, I'm gonna share with you office hours. I would love to have continue conversations. Feel free to join me, but I'd rather, for now, I'd rather make sure you get this last part, which is back to interruptions and all this. I'm gonna share with you a technique, a really simple technique, but it's all about managing our attention. What I mentioned early on, time management is an old thing. The new time management is attention management and being able to be focused and accomplish so much more in the time we have and also feel better and feel calmer and feel more creative. So the technique I'm going to share with you is something we call micro planning. Something you can do on paper on a journal, you can do electronically, whatever works. So let's say I'm about to work on this budget for my department. So what that means, I'm going to write down here the steps. So I'm going to download the spreadsheet from the server. I'm going to read the new revenue recognition guidelines. I'm going to adjust the formulas based on those guidelines. And I'm going to send a copy to the CFO and then schedule a team meeting to update my team about the guidelines. So what did I just do? I created a micro plan. So a micro plan is just breaking down whatever I'm going to do right now into the smallest possible steps. So I have a clear vision, and so I can manage my attention clearly and firmly throughout this task. So let me now give you the demo of what might happen and how this works. So as I start to work on this task, I do download the spreadsheet. So I'm going to cross it off. And then I start to review the revenue recognition guidelines. And then a couple minutes into it, or actually 10 seconds into it, I have this other idea about another step I need to do to finish the budget. Instead of jumping into that step, I'm gonna add it where it belongs in the micro plan and come back and stay fully focused on the revenue recognition guidelines. When we start to manage our attention at this micro level, we're gonna get done in 10 or 15 minutes, what otherwise would take 20 or 30 minutes. So again, time management starts with attention management. And let's keep going. I have several scenarios I'm gonna walk you through here. So let's say the next thought that comes to my mind, remember, our mind wanders 47% of the time. So it's likely in your whatever time you spend here, it's likely you're gonna have like, 10, 20, 30 thoughts. Another piece of statistics, if you're interested, we tend to have 50,000 thoughts a day. So just to tell you how busy our mind is. So there are gonna be plenty of thoughts happening when you do this. So a few seconds later, another thought came up, and this other thought happens to be about something that I need to do sometime today, another action, another to do, but it's something that's not related to this project and something that I need to handle sometime today. So what do I do with this thought? I'm gonna add it to another page in my journal, which we call the today page. The today page, something I would start at the beginning of the day, where I have a mindful minute, ask myself the question, what is important? What do I want to accomplish today? And then I jot down the 2 or 3, the short list of what matters, where my attention needs to go today, and keep making sure that I give this enough attention today. But that page continues to be open and available for new things that come up, such as this thought that I just came up with that needs to be handled today. So I add it to the today page. Now, what if this thought, this to-do, is something I don't know what to do with yet? And in that case, I'm gonna add it to the 3rd page in the journal, which we call the capture page, and let it sit here and then come back very quickly and go back to my focused step. So basically this journal, again, you can do this electronically. We also have an app for this, for those who are, I think Janine mentioned it earlier, it's called the Hello Mindful app. So we have an app for this for those who want to check it out. But the idea is we don't want our mind to be scattered all the time and going chasing after all these thoughts. We want to make a safe place for them and come back and protect our focus time. So let me give you one more example. Let's say the next interruption happens to be not our own mind anymore, but an urgent issue that came from the outside. I'm sure you all deal with those. And it's not something I can postpone. I need to deal with it right now. So I may interrupt what I'm doing, take on that other issue, whatever that is. Maybe I might need a micro plan for this one. And then when I'm done with this one, I come back here. I know exactly what I did. I know exactly what I still need to do. I captured everything along the way, and I know exactly what I need to start. So I'm gonna recover from that interruption in no time and be able to get back on track and be productive. So this is micro planning. It's the best antidote to today's constant interruption workplace, and also to our wandering mind that keeps going places. So this is a simple technique that can help offset a lot of this. Okay, So we may actually end up with a few minutes for questions, but let me share with you couple more things here. Resources, actually, we're getting into the resource section. So let me actually step back for a moment and talk about something we drew here earlier. So we said schedule thing on the calendar. What is very important about making this whole thing work? What's very important is that when the time comes, let's say you schedule this for 9 a.m. What's very important is that you do this at 9 a.m. It's so easy to postpone and find excuses. And sometimes, you get external reasons why you have to interrupt, but more often than not, it's our own, oh, I can do that later or whatever. So the very important thing is to become aware of our voice behind the scene, of our the voice in the back of our mind that's telling us stuff, and to be mindful of that and to step back, and instead of getting entangled in those ideas or excuses or fear that's coming up, instead of getting entangled into this, to choose and be intentional about what we want to do. So that's why at the end of the day, time management is really attention management, and it's really awareness and mindfulness. And that's why I'm going to share with you the two takeaways from today. And Mohammed, thank you for the question. We're going to get to you actually in just a moment. So this is one course that has so much more than what we covered today. And then this is the meditation part, which is really developing skillful ways to deal with the thoughts and the emotions, the fear, and everything that plays into time management behind the scene. And that is much bigger in terms of its impact on how we think about our time and what we do things. And those are my office hours. And I have all of this for you in this online portal, which has the slides from today. It has the 21 practices with the coupon, so you get your complimentary seat, and same with the mindfulness practices. And then it has a few chapters from my Accomplishing More with Less book, so for those who want to dig deeper into these topics. And this is the link, and I'm going to share it also. I'll share it with you, Janine, if you want to make it accessible to everyone who registered today, because I know not everybody was able to attend. But for those who are here, this is the link, so you can feel free to register and benefit from these resources. Okay, so with this, let's take some questions. And I also want to check in with Janine if you have also some things you want to take care of at the end that we need to leave time for.
I'm good, Pierre.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I think, Mohammed, you had a question. So please feel free to go ahead and pose your question. Maybe Mohammed stepped away. Okay, anyone else who
Doctor,
has?
yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah.
Dr. Pierre. How can we reach your office hours? How can we contact you during your office hours? Is there a way, or is there a link? How is the process?
So this is the link here, which is also in the online portal, but I also share it in the chat. Yeah, you can go there, and there are a bunch of Zoom links. So I have those weekly, and they're group office hours. So it could be other people from other organizations, other workshops, and we have a really nice discussion. Usually it's a small group, so it still allows a lot of time for individual work. So yeah, feel free to check that out and join when you have something you'd like to follow up on. Yeah. Yeah, Cynthia, please.
Hello. So are there any LinkedIn learning courses that you're aware of that help for time management or?
Yeah, I'm sure there are because they cover so many topics. If someone, I'm not too up to date with the latest ones they have, whatever they have, but if someone on the call have encountered something interesting and useful on LinkedIn Learning, would be great to share it in that chat and let Cynthia know. And I'm sure, Cynthia, if you do some searches on LinkedIn, you probably will find some classes and also some ranking and see, how popular some of them are. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, actually, I have a question concerning the. Sometimes you're waiting for somebody to give you an answer, to continue your assumption or continue your work, and this person is not giving you the answer, so it's delaying your project or delaying your tasks. So how you deal with those? Yeah,
so much of our work depends on other people. So how do we do with it? So I would say there's some tactical things we can do. And then there are some more strategic things we might want to consider. So the tactical things are the easy, more like obvious things, which is send a reminder, send a second reminder. But in the reminder, make the reminder more meaningful. Like sharing the impact of not having this item. What's the impact on you? What's the impact on your team, on the project deadline, on the organization? When people see impact, it tends to have a different effect from just reminding them. So having our reminders be more meaningful. And then sometimes also it's checking in with them about what is stopping them from providing what they supposed to provide. So there could be some reasons we are not aware of, and if we become aware of, we may have better ideas or better maybe suggestions or whatever else. And then on the strategic side, there is more negotiation. So negotiation is such an amazing and useful thing to develop skills in, and that requires understanding what are our needs, what are their needs, how important are certain things for us, how important are for them, what can we negotiate with. So that's a bigger topic, but that could also be something to consider. So yeah, that's a great question and a great topic. Hopefully some of those ideas resonated, but something you could continue to think, how can you continue to develop more skills in that direction? Aziz, you have a question here. How do you get yourself to do what you plan to do? Your last point, building other than just do it. Yeah. So how do you get yourself to do what you plan to do? So you check into why aren't you doing it? What are the potential thoughts or fear or hesitation behind the scene that are hindering you from doing it? And exploring those further into, are they legitimate? Is there something you need to do about those concerns and fears, whatever else? Is it just simple procrastination? So there's some investigation to be done, like, why am I not doing this? And then having said that, also going to practical things. This is where our 15-minute method works. And back to what I mentioned earlier, that the app might be able to help you with that, working in small increments. So instead of saying, when I take on this big thing, say, let me do 15 minutes on that thing. And once we get into action, some amazing things start to happen and we start to feel differently. And we may not, but it's good to give that. Let me give it just 15 minutes. So try this. Actually, this will be your homework. So think about something you've been planning to do and you've been postponing or procrastinating on. and just do 15 minutes on it, maybe today. And just see at the end of the 15 minutes, check in and see, okay, how am I feeling right now? And do I want to continue? So yeah, another really good question. We could talk an hour on this. If you really want to talk about this, come join us in the mindfulness meditation, but it's really about getting to know what's going on behind the scene. What is that voice telling us? How we're feeling? What are the worries and fears that are playing into this that normally we're not even aware of? All we know is, I don't feel like doing this. But we don't get deeper into why don't I feel like doing this. So yeah, and I know we're at time, so I'm going to respect everybody's time, and I'm going to refer any outstanding issues or questions to office hours, or feel free to email me. But most importantly, if you really want to work on time management, it's here. So today we scratched the surface with some things, but the real work is really the deeper work, and that's where time management and attention management become really productive. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. And yeah, great to be with you again. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you so much, Pierre, for your time. Just a couple follow-ups. So you will provide your office hours, portal for resources. You did a survey last time. If you want to do a survey again, I can circulate to the people who participated. And then all these upcoming workshops that you have here, it'd be great to also disseminate that post this event.
Yeah, I'll send you all this so you have it, and you can feel free to share it, Janine.
Thank you so much, Pierre, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I think this was amazing. Again, a great session by Pierre Kawand.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.